I'm Donald Moffat.
And I'm Heather Menzies. Logan's Run will not be on tonight.
But stay tuned for the Charlie Brown special and the Fat Albert Halloween special.
And we'll be back next Monday night.
Coming February 21st, it's Faye and the Moon, the latest graphic novel from Franco and the Saturn Sisters. Faye, mourning for her missing mother, sits night after night below the moon that her mother loved dearly. One night she discovers she can pluck the moon out of the star-filled sky. Back safe in her house, she holds it close, feeling comfort at last. Then Faye loses the moon and finds that taking it has awakened ancient monsters, rats, dragons, and more, who hunt for it for themselves. Will Faye be able to reclaim the moon, find her own inner strength, and save the world from eternal darkness? Faye and the Moon comes from the minds of Franco, whose works include Tiny Titans, Superman of Smallville, Archimaniacs, Itty Bitty Hellboy, and The Ghost and the Owl, and art from the Saturn Sisters, whose animated works include Sesame Studios' The New Neighbors, Hulu's The Awesomes by Seth Meyers, and PBS's Mira, Selkie from the Sea. Pre-order Faye and the Moon now. Available in bookstores and comic shops everywhere, February 21st.
This Superman portrait is really a send-up of the original Fleischer cartoon intro, where you saw a quick explanation of the destruction of Krypton, the rocket ship coming to Earth, and the pose of Superman with fists on hips, where he's kind of looking down a little bit. This is an exaggeration of that, where I'm getting my traditional kind of Alex Ross low angle looking up the body kind of shot, which again I'll credit to Neil Adams as an influence. This is really just connecting with the most fundamental kind of influence in my life from that cartoon shaping the way that I illustrate Superman. It also connects in ways I'd never even thought about when I was doing the piece with one of the most famous images that Steve Rude did in World's Finest of Superman, where he kind of recreated that Fleischer moment with his painted figure of Superman, and then I would spend the rest of my career pretty much doing what he did before me.
Welcome back, everybody. It's time again for Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. We're going to be welcoming Eric Palicki to Word Balloon in a moment. Right now, it looks like I'm not sure if he is off, but his camera went black. And I don't know. Hold on a second. Let's see if he's there. Can you hear us, Eric?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but your camera went dark.
Huh. It's showing me as there on your screen. 1 second here.
No problem, buddy.
How about now? Still nothing?
Still in the dark, but that's all right.
Well, I can log out and come back in and see if that makes a difference.
Sure, bud. All right, man. Here,
All right.
I'll take you out. We'll talk to you in a second. Eric is here to talk about some great stuff that he's got going on at Ahoy Comics, a fantastic book, and that's called Black's Myth. And very cool. We'll get into it. You can see the beautiful colors there and everything. But also he's got a Kickstarter campaign going on for a sci-fi book called Orphans. Pretty neat stuff. And both great stories, beautiful art, and we'll get into it with him. All right, he's back, and I can see him now. There we go.
Okay.
All right, Eric. No problem, buddy.
No, it seems like I need to just give up on these Apple products and StreamYard. For some reason. My Mac doesn't work. My phone doesn't work.
I think sometimes it does get persnickety. Google Chrome is probably the preferred platform. I don't know if you have that on your Mac or not, but I'm sorry, buddy. I should have told you that.
No worries at all. I think we got it working for now. So
excellent. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I was kind of thinking about in preparation for this. I was thinking about our first online interaction, which I'm sure you don't remember.
Tell me.
You had posted a recording of Evan Dorkin's panel from the great Cincy Comic Cons that Tony Moore used to run. and you posted it and you linked to it on Twitter, and I responded something to the effect of, God, that was depressing. And you challenged me on that. You said, why? Evan is just telling it like it is. He's being honest. It's not depressing. And on reflection, you were absolutely right. What I should have said is, God, that was sobering. But
There
you
you
know, coming up on a decade since that convention, and I'm still here making comics. So
excellent, man.
Evan,
You are, and really good comics too, by the way. So
Evan didn't scare me off. So
good, man. No, I understand, but yeah, you're right. I mean, no, he was, again, and I think Evan's a great guy as an example of that. That is a name out there, and certainly like a known commodity. But yeah, I mean, the guy does. He every project is a new challenge, and I think that's a good, smart, like you said, sober way to kind of approach comics. But truly, man, God, you were kind enough to show me both Orphans and Blacksmith. And let's start with Orphans because you've got the Kickstarter campaign going on now. I mean, this is complete. And forgive me, is this an old story you're bringing back in hardcover? What are you doing with this exactly?
Yeah. To just give everyone a little bit of a background, this was the first graphic novel that I had ever written and taken all the way through to production. I hired an artist to work with me. I ran it as a Kickstarter in 2012. The book came out in 2013, so technically this is the 10th anniversary. And the way that this book ever found an audience after the Kickstarter was I put it up on Comixology through their Submit program, which allowed creators to put material up as long as it met certain qualifications. And it was a success. At least that's what the fine folks at Comixology always told me, was that it was, one of their better received books. And then what got me thinking about it again was all the recent tumult at Comixology with people being let go and Amazon seemingly absorbing the brand, and it's just going to become a Kindle store, which is really disappointing. So I started reminiscing about that whole experience. And this was a book that, with the demise of the Submit program, I kind of thought I would sunset the book, just put it on the shelf and forget about it. But then Kickstarter runs something called the Make 100 program in January, which are these small campaigns where creators are allowed to do a campaign for 100 rewards. And I thought, well, let me take this book out, dust it off, see if there's anything there. It's done. I have this new cover. I can offer it to people one last time. If they like my work, great. Maybe some people are discovering my work for the first time through this. Maybe they're people who have read more recent work like Blacksmith or No Angel and want to check this out. So here we are. The campaign is funded. We're just like barreling towards that last hardcover stretch goal, which I think we're going to hit by Sunday. So here's hoping.
That's great, man. And I love the story. It's kind of a super soldier, military espionage sort of story. And here we'll show the art while we're talking and everything. Who's your artist?
Sure. So the artist on that book is a gentleman named Branko Jovanovic. He's since gone on to do some work with, he did Solar Flare at Scout after I worked with him. He did a book called Standstill, which was another Kickstarter funded book written by Justin Gray, Jimmy Palmiotti's frequent writing partner.
Absolutely. Paper films. Sure.
Yeah. He's been doing a lot of work since this. I think he's definitely got he's very close to ready for prime time, even in this stuff 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So if this book just gives him a little bit more attention, it'll be worth it for me. I always kind of describe it when I had the book at conventions. I always say it's what if Captain America had to give up being a soldier so he became Robin Hood instead? And it's kind of this failed super soldier realizes that all of this awesome technology that was used to create him and other super soldiers like him, or just weapons development in general, was instead focused on saving lives instead. So he goes about stealing that technology and putting it in the hands of people who will use it the right way, or so he thinks. And of course that upsets the wrong people, and the consequences that follow from that kind of drive the story.
Smart story, action packed, beautiful art. I really no, I really like this, and I always appreciate seeing fresh art and everything. And I think he's got a very fresh style. And again, this is 10 years ago. He's, as you said, he's only getting better. So that's great to see. I think it's terrific, man. Do you? And I will confess, I've only read half of it. Um, is there an ending here, or would you want to? Does this open the door to do more orphan stuff?
The answer to both is yes. It is. It wraps up the story, but it is definitely open ended. Uh, I did exactly the wrong thing when I was starting out and planning this book, in that I was like, they always tell you to start small, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do 10 issues. That's small, right?
Wow.
So in my head, this was a 10-issue story, and
Sure.
the funding and the realities of everything meant that it became a 5-issue story or 5-chapter story. It only ever existed in issues virtually.
Yeah.
But there's definitely more story to be told there, and we'll see what happens. You never know.
Yeah, 125 pages, including covers. But no, it's a great size graphic novel, and that's great. And truly, I think it's smart. I do fear for the others that both the Comixology originals, but also the submission program. It's such a shame, because I really think David Steinberg and company with Comixology really created a platform with the best intentions to cater to all digital comic needs. And
Yeah.
it kind of sucks that Amazon has kind of gutted this really great thing.
I mean, it changed the trajectory of my career. I wouldn't have ever found the audience such as it is without Submit. It allowed me to say that I was a professional, so I could vote in the Eisners, vote in the Ringos,
Sure.
use it as a portfolio piece for editors. I could point to. I could use it to apply for conventions and get into conventions and table. So it definitely was just a blessing for me as I pursued this, as a career.
Hats off to you too, getting your artist to stick with the project. I mean, that's one of the reasons why, as you know, people will say start small. God, I even have my own comic book ideas and haven't found that right artist. And I would really love to confine these to 10-page stories, or maybe 20, but certainly one shots. And even asking somebody, I think, do 20 pages might be too much of a commitment. So, but that's great, man. No, and again, I think the book looks great. I think the action is fantastic, and the story.
I think it's important that you not listen to Mr. Tom King, and 20 pages is totally a doable size for a story. You saw him
recently, or you heard him?
Yeah, I listened.
Hilarious. That's fantastic, man. That's too much. Jesus. Well, we were talking off the air too, and we'll get to Blacksmith in a moment, because I love Hohoy. But I do want to obviously acknowledge your fantastic actress sister, Adrienne Palicki, who was great on Shield, and just wrapped up the 3rd season of The Orville. And I had the pleasure of meeting her at Terrificon. She's really cool. God, do you ever? I mean, how? Because I would think, as an actress, she's always looking for good stories. Did you guys ever talk about, like, maybe doing something together?
We did a book together called it was From Black Mask. It's called No Angel. She and I co-wrote that. Oh, sure. So that's, okay. And that, that was during that same cohort of Black Mask creators that included Vita Ayala and my good friend Matthew Rosenberg and Mags Visaggio. So it kind of got lost in the shuffle. It wasn't quite the same vibe as some of those other Black Mask books, but I'm still very proud of it. And I got to, spend a long weekend in LA breaking the story with my sister, who, she and I are very close. We didn't become close until we were both older, but, she is one of my dearest friends. And so getting to work with her was awesome. And, I wish the best for her. I hope, I don't know anything, and I can't speak to anything about the future of her Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. role, or whether we're ever going to see an Orville season 4. As a fan, I sure hope so, but I don't know anything, unfortunately.
I understand, buddy. No, I'm not going to ask you again, like you said, and she doesn't know. But that said, I keep saying, instead of a fourth season, make a movie. Because I know that everyone's moved on to other projects, likely, the entire cast and McFarlane for that matter as well. But it's like, I think it would be easier from a schedule standpoint as opposed to the long commitment of making another season. I mean, I'd love to see a season 4. And I certainly hope that Disney is paying attention to all the numbers and stuff. But back to you, I want to, regarding No Angel and everything, and Black Mask. Black Mask is another great imprint that, as you said, you rattled off the roster, and all these people are killing it right now, doing other books and stuff. But again, another fresh kind of comic company that was telling really interesting ideas. What's the premise of No Angel?
No Angel is the story of a woman who returns home to her small town in the Midwest after her father is murdered. She involves herself in the investigation and discovers that he was part of a cult that believed themselves to be descended from angels. And more so, he may or may not have been killed because he was able to prove it. And then so it sort of opens up, it starts as a murder mystery and opens up this sort of broader metaphysical, fantastic element to it.
That sounds great, man. No, that sounds really cool. You see, I mean, a lot of times I meet you guys, you Black Mask people after the fact and everything, and I end up going back and checking out the stuff. I'm going to have to read this. This sounds great. How many How many volumes of that did you end up doing?
That we did 1 4-issue trade, and it's
okay.
It's again, it was an open-ended, and maybe someday we'll be able to return to that world. But again, got to make a comic book with my sister, which is just a joy in itself.
That's great, man. I got to tell you, and I hear you about getting along better as adults and stuff. My sister and I have never collaborated. We were very different people, but we are certainly closer now than we were as children and stuff. So I get it. How many years difference? I don't want to age Adrian in the process or anything.
No, she's 4 years younger, 4.5 years younger.
That's cool. You guys are still young. That's cool. And yeah. God, I still haven't sat down and watched her Wonder Woman pilot.
It'll be an experience for you, John. It'll be there are parts of it. I think that she does a fantastic job in it. I don't know that the material was worth the cast. They had Carrie Elways in it, and Elizabeth Hurley as the villain. It was, they spent a lot of money on that show, and it's disappointing. And as I was telling someone else earlier today, if it had come out 2 years later, if it had followed on the tail of Arrow, she'd be filming her ninth season right now.
I hear you, man. Well, but the good news is, hey, she got a great gig with S.H.I.E.L.D. and she got a great gig with the Orville, showing some versatility and everything. Honestly, man, and this will be my last comment on Adrian and get back to you. I didn't even recognize her from S.H.I.E.L.D., and I don't know why, because it's not like they gave her any tricked up makeup on the Orville, but I'm like, man, Kelly's great. Oh, man, she's really good. And a friend of mine's like, dumbass, that's Mockingbird from S.H.I.E.L.D. And it's like, oh, yeah, all right. But no, she's great, and I wish her nothing but the best. And, she's terrific. I hope she's got very cool stuff coming up that we just haven't heard about yet, So good luck to her. Well, anyway, moving on. Ahoy. Love Ahoy. Massive fan. So many great books, and Blacksmith is certainly one of them. Now, people are hearing that and might think of the guy in the barn with the hammer in his hand on the anvil and everything. But this is Blacksmith, and very cool, man. It's a good combination of crime and a little supernatural thing here. I'll let you give the 10-cent elevator pitch on.
Sure.
Blacksmith.
So this one is this has the somewhat dubious distinction of being the least funny book that Ahoy has published, but they still trusted me to be a part of their imprint. It is a supernatural noir detective story about a private investigator who happens to be a werewolf, but who has stepped away from that supernatural side of her life and just handles mundane, run-of-the-mill private investigator style missing persons cases, infidelity cases, and the like. But then a case falls into her lap that might be a career-making opportunity to find 30 stolen bullets that may have been made from Judas's silver.
Wow.
So it kind of sends her right back into that supernatural world that she'd abandoned. And I try to sort of secretly fold in like this supernatural underground that exists in LA, right under everybody's noses, but which the average mundane folks don't even realize is there. Her partner is a genie. There's some other crazy. There's vampires. There's a minotaur. There's all kinds of other supernatural stuff that shows up. I do try to balance the humor with the noir, and I do have to say once again, mentioning your frequent guest Tom King, that you guys, the two of you, as well as the Benson sisters, give me so much. I have a list of movies that I need to check out just listening to you guys talk about noir movies.
Oh God,
but
man,
yeah,
yeah.
Blacksmith is really, I really love the Maltese Falcon, but it would be better with monsters in it. So that's what Blacksmith is.
Let's take a look at the art, man. Look at this. Unbelievable. It's so beautiful. Is it a black and white book?
It is a black and white book. It is
wonderful.
It was pitched in color. I know I sent you the review copy, which just has the story, but the trade paperback does show the original colored pitch pages in the back.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, when my editor there, Sarah Litt, came back and said, "Hey, we've decided we're just going to go black and white with this," I was a little bit crestfallen. I was a little bit heartbroken because in my head I imagined it as a book in color, and sometimes there's whether earned or inappropriate or not, there's a stigma surrounding black and white comics.
I understand.
And then someone reminded me that, hey, the most popular independent comic of the last 30 years was a black and white comic with no superheroes in it. So you're just following Walking Dead's coattails.
Absolutely, man.
And I felt better, and it sold well. It is incredible to get, from what I understand, Stuart Moore is not necessarily forthcoming with praise, and to hear nice things from Stuart Moore and Tom Peyer about your work is, nothing beats that serotonin rush. And they've greenlit a sequel, and the sequel, Blacksmith 2 will start. So it'll be solicited, I believe, next month. I'm always bad about when the timing for things, but the first issue will be out in June.
That's awesome, man. That's fantastic. As you know, in mentioning the noir movies that the Bensons and King and I all love and everything, there's something about crime in black and white that just so works. I mean, I don't know if you've dipped back to Straight Toasters, David Lapham's fantastic crime series of the 90s.
I love that work.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's the thing. So I get it, and you're right. And I think, unfortunately, there is sometimes a stigma about, black and white books. But again, I just think, it's such an opportunity with grayscale and inking that you can really create a mood. And you certainly do in Blacksmith. I mean, it's gorgeous, man. The art that I was just showing is fantastic. Where have I heard of your artist prior to Blacksmith?
So Wendell is relatively new to the U.S. scene. He's a Brazilian artist, Wendell Cavalcanti, for the listeners. He did a book at Image, though, called Black Acre a few years ago, written by, I think, a gentleman named Duffy Boudreau. That was his first big break in American comics.
I'm sure people. Go ahead.
Oh, and then I was going to say, and then the cover art is Liana Kangas, who has done a number of books. These covers are great. She wanted to use her neon palette, but then is somewhat inspired by the those pulpy novel covers. So it's a mix of her preferred color palette with those pulpy noir paperback covers.
Absolutely, man. The figures definitely evoke that paperback cover feel, but I love this neon color palette, which just makes it more modern. And no, that's great, man. Gorgeous. And the interiors, again, are just beautiful. Do you feel like you've had good luck in terms of finding artists, and where do you go for aspiring writers and stuff? Where do you go to find, if you don't mind sharing?
No. So I used to there was a website called Digital Webbing, and I don't even know if they still exist, but their message board was fantastic for finding collaborators. I found both Bronco and Wendell there when we were doing our initial pitches. Well, actually, Wendell and I have been collaborating on and off on pitches and little short comics and things, various things like that for almost 15 years now. But it all started from me answering a looking for work post on digital webbing.
That's great, man. I noticed. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, and then and then now it's all social media. It's Twitter. It's
sure.
The various people who've heard of you and reach out, and hopefully we can make magic happen.
That's great, man. You did a little bit of Marvel work as well.
I did one story for Marvel, and there was a book called Guardians of Infinity, which was a book that was written by Dan Abnett, and it was an 8-issue miniseries. And Dan's chapters for the book were all 15 pages long. So what Marvel did is they found other writers or other creative teams to do 15-page backup stories. So you get 30 pages of content.
Wow.
with the A story in the backup. I was in issue 6. I got to do a story featuring Gamora and Kitty Pryde, who was at that time Lady Star-Lord. And Kitty Pryde is my most favorite Marvel character. So I kind of owe Bendis a debt of gratitude for him sort of setting the table so that I could have an excuse to play with my favorite X-Man while she happened to be part of the Guardians of the Galaxy.
That's great. I'm still so sad that we're probably not going to see his Kitty Pryde movie that he wrote. It's what are you going to do? I mean, and in fact, talking movies, we'll see what happens as Marvel starts to creep in the X-Men in their universe. But God, we're still fresh. It's only been a few days since James Gunn made his announcement about the DC slate. Do you have any thoughts on what they've told us about what's coming?
I am cautiously optimistic. James Gunn has a pretty great track record between the Guardians movies and the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker. So I'm willing to give this a shot. I'm an Authority fan from way back. The first Authority trade paperback had one of the scripts in the back of it, and that's how I learned how to write comic book scripts. So
wow,
I have quite a bit of affection for that book. A Lanterns book featuring both Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan sounds great.
Yeah.
I hope that they don't completely abandon the stuff the things that they've set up with Peacemaker and the Batman. But we'll see what happens.
I hear you, man. No, and again, I think it's smart on their part to recognize the success of the Batman movie, the Joker movie, things like that, and let them progress. But and it's call them Elseworlds. That's fine. Don't be afraid of different interpretations of these characters. And also, I mean, God, as Tom King said in my interview with him, James was working to the right of Kevin Feige. They're good friends. James had such great success at Marvel with his projects. I love the holiday special. I'm looking forward to the Guardians 3. And as you said, Suicide Squad was great. Peacemaker. I think this guy gets it. I was talking to Brad Meltzer this afternoon, and he even said too, it's like, to use these smaller characters like Judo Master and Polka Dot Man and the Suicide Squad, and Vigilante and stuff. It's clear the guy, I mean, the Guardians themselves for that matter, it's clear the guy understands to find those weird, quirky characters in both universes and exploit them in the best ways. So I have faith. I agree with you. Cautiously optimistic. I remember the great director of and now I'm blanking on his name, but the French Connection and also To Live and Die in L.A. I can't think of his name right now. Chicago guy. Shame on me. He also did Did he do Manhunter? No, but anyway, he said for a movie to go right, 1,000 things have to happen, and it's true. And I mean, there's a lot of great movies that start off great and end up not so great. So what are you going to do? Oh, that's nice. David Hazan is cheering you on, man. So
Yeah, big fan of the work he's been doing over at Mad Cave.
that's good. Seriously, man, I'm so glad you mentioned Scout. I'm so glad we mentioned Black Mask, and now Mad Cave. All those imprints, man, they're killing it. They are really putting out great, fresh comics. And I still love DC and Marvel. I'm sure I always will. But it's really nice to see the newer publishers step up and give us really great product. And I really think all three of them right now are just doing excellent work. So
yeah, I think for all the things that were a disappointment about the pandemic, I think that one of the things about comics is that it allowed the table to be reset a little bit, and it did give a lot of these independent publishers an opportunity to shine, and especially with Diamond kind of going through it a little bit at the early days of the pandemic.
absolutely.
Definitely gave these indie publishers an audience that they might not have had otherwise. And I hope that they can maintain that momentum, and we can continue to see good books coming from all those publishers.
How did the pandemic affect your output? Did it let you? I mean, a lot of people saw it as a benefit. They hunkered down like they normally do and just put out stuff. What was your personal experience with it?
I actually, Ahoy, to their credit, never went pencils down. So I continued to work. I was working through the first volume of Blacksmith at the time, and so I just kept working, and Wendell kept working, and we were able to put that out at the tail end of the pandemic. And it was uninterrupted. I did a small Kickstarter a couple years ago, just for a one-off to kind of for something to do. And I had an artist friend, Chris Peterson, reached out to me. He was pencils down for a project he had been working on, and he was looking for work. So we did a small, like European size novella called Manticore. And I hope I can give you a copy at C2E2 this year.
I'm glad you're coming. That's great, man.
Yeah. I will be in Artist Alley. So
I will make sure I see you. Absolutely. That sounds great. Oh, I'd love to read that. That's terrific, man. How about, I've also been impressed lately seeing people that are comic writers go beyond comics and go to other platforms. And especially I'm a big audio drama nerd. I love old time radio. There's a lot of great, almost noir style old radio detective and mystery shows that pretty much match up with the movies of the day and everything. But I really appreciate modern dramas as well. And I think of guys like Ben Percy and Paul Cornell that are doing audio dramas. Is that an arena that would interest you, or are you beyond comics? Are there other things that you're kicking around platform wise?
I've always kind of looked at television as something I would like to consider, but I'm a little afraid to dip my toe in that arena based on, I don't ever want to feel like it's nepotism, and I do sometimes hear horror stories, and I hear them firsthand because, either from my sister directly or from writers that I've met through her. But I think those are the two media that are, it's the sequential concept, the concept of, telling chapter stories.
Yeah.
I would love to try TV sometime.
That sounds great. And no, I hear you, man. I mean, I'm waiting for Bendis' Fortune and Glory Volume 2. I know he's got a hell of a lot more stories of pitch meetings and development and things that went well and things that didn't go well. And you're right. I mean, God, a lot of my other friends that I've gotten to know and everything, both on the record and off the record, have told me some tough stories about television. And even I, in my sports broadcasting capacity, it wasn't certainly, scripted drama or comedy, but television, it ain't easy. There's a reason why.
No, I love the rise of there was a lot of actors who went to podcasts because the TV industry was in such disarray during the pandemic. So I don't know if you listen to the Batman, the ones on Spotify.
I have.
Those are fantastic. They just released a second one with Harley Quinn and the Joker, which is just as good as the first one. just as good as the Batman Buried that they did last year.
Yes. Also, God, Phil Lamar and Dominic. God damn it, he's one of the hobbits in the Lord of the Rings movies. The guy who was on Lost.
I'm blanking on his last name, but I know who
yeah,
you're talking
Dominic.
about.
Yeah, the actor. Everyone's listening is like, yeah, we know, dumbass. Dominic. I believe Dominic Monaghan. I believe that's right. But they did a Sherlock Holmes Moriarty thing where it's on Audible, and Monaghan is Moriarty, and Moriarty is actually the sympathetic hero that's misunderstood in this story. And Phil Lamar plays Sherlock Holmes, complete asshole, and it fits the Holmes. I mean, I'm a big Holmes nut, and it does fit his character. But we forgave him for his idiosyncrasies in the Conan Doyle stuff and most of the adapted and original stuff that others have written and stuff. And it's a fun twist on the story. And it's like, wait a minute, what if Moriarty was misunderstood and actually kind of almost a victim of circumstance and branded a criminal? And as far as Sherlock Holmes is concerned, criminal, fine. And he's a shark. He's going after him. There's no stopping him. And it's this very entertaining story. I keep bugging Phil to come on and talk about it and stuff. Hopefully I'll get him, but we'll see.
This is one I'll have to look into. I agree with David.
David likes my kind of, so that's cool. I appreciate it, David.
What was the Holmes movie from back in the 80s with Michael Caine where
Eric, you're speaking to me. That's fantastic. It's called Without a Clue.
Without a Clue, and he's an idiot, and Watson is the brains behind the whole outfit.
Ben Kingsley is Watson. Fantastic broad comedy, really silly, but in the best ways. And it's great because I've heard bloody Michael Caine say that he loves music hall comedy and always did. And man, he is so great in that. They both are, and that whole cast. That's so funny. And I even think you might be able to find it on YouTube illegally. It's one of those things. I don't know if it was ever put on DVD. I know it had a VHS because I remember a long college road trip where we took Without a Clue with us, and we were delighted. We're like, oh my God, this is fantastic. So yeah, that's so funny that you mentioned that. I love Cumberbatch. I think he did a hell of a job as Sherlock. Although that last season, season 4, not as good.
There was always like one standout episode in every season, and then there was always one clunker. And I think season 4 was the one that had one standout episode and 2 clunkers.
It the Toby Huss episode? I thought was pretty good in season 4.
Yes,
right?
And then the finale was, I think, a little bit too much when they introduced the sister.
That's what I mean. Yeah. Go ahead. What were you going to say about it?
I know she's canonically a character in his life, but the version of the sister that they introduced, I thought was a little too much.
Is that true? Because I read the old. I know there's the Netflix show, and we've gotten Holmes' sister and everything, and definitely a different portrayal. But I'll take your word for it, man. I don't know. Oh, Mulvey's watching. Joe Mulvey, another collaborator of yours back in the day. No love for Sherlock Holmes' Smarter Brother, one of Gene Wilder's lesser-known flicks, but a great comedy. Love that movie, man. Great movie. Absolutely, man. Hilarious.
Yeah. Joe did the cover for the 10th anniversary Orphans that we're kickstarting. That's
there you go, man. The new cover.
Yeah, he did the new cover, and actually he did that new cover. He and Chris Sotomayor did the colors on that, and that was actually something I commissioned years ago. I thought that this book was going to have legs with a publisher, and things fell apart. But Joe had offered through one of his Kickstarters a tier to have a cover commission, and Joe and I we've razzed each other about stuff, and he still owes me a whiskey, but. He's a person that covers, it's so long ago. I'd love to work with Joe again.
That would be great. That's excellent, man. No, I think again, I think both the books you gave me are fantastic. The Blacksmith volume and Orphans. I was going to ask you about Orphans. So there's 6 days left, and I was going to say, did you work with comic book stores And for the Kickstarter, will they stock the book?
So this one is going to be an extremely limited version. It's going to be 100 copies, only available through the Kickstarter.
Oh,
And
I
they
see.
have
That's why it's 100 copies. I thought maybe
exactly.
I was going to ask about that, but go on.
So, I've done that with other Kickstarters I've run where I've offered the retailer tier. But this one, I just wanted to do a small thing, and I wanted to make it special. It's the first book I ever did. And, even though I feel like I've grown as a writer, I think that I'm a more mature writer. If this book were to be written today, I think it would be a little pithier. But I'm still very happy with how it turned out. And, I just wanted to make it, release it out into the world one more time in its current form. If this story gets retold somehow, it may find a third life somewhere. But for now, it's just an opportunity to offer just an extremely limited book to people. And it looks like we've got about 30 copies left as we're recording this, as we're live here. And then there's also a digital tier for people who just want to. I was able to offer a digital tier. Unfortunately, shipping overseas has just gotten it's just a non-starter anymore, and it's going to cost more than the book does for me to ship it to Europe or even to Canada. So it's a US only Kickstarter, unfortunately.
Dude, that's an old story, unfortunately, since Kickstarter began. I know a lot of people went into these and would offer their books internationally, and it would absolutely eat up their profits. And that's a shame. And I would imagine with the supply chain and COVID that things have even gotten even more ridiculous. So, but at least, if there are European fans that want to check it out, they can get the digital version. So
yeah,
that's great. That's excellent, man. Very, very good. Now, you mentioned you're going to be at C2E2. That's great. That's the end of March and the beginning of April, that last day of March or last couple days, first 2 days of April. What other, are you doing other conventions this year?
Yeah, so I'm out here in Seattle. So I'll be doing Emerald City this year, my hometown show.
Sure.
C2E2, I will be doing Comic-Con Revolution in Ontario, California, which is just outside of LA. That's another show that, very comics creator centric, run by a gentleman who just very much reminds me of, having met Mitch now, very much reminds me of Mitch Halleck, and just a genuine comics fan.
What month is that show?
That's in May. That's the end of May.
Okay.
And then C2E2, and then hopefully New York. I do New York every year. My best friend lives in Hell's Kitchen, so I get to stay with him and then walk to the convention, which is about the best way to do it. And it's great. He has a rooftop deck.
Wow.
Yeah, he's a lawyer who lives in Hell's Kitchen, but he's not blind. But you step out on his roof deck and it looks just like a Frank Miller drawing with the water towers.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. I've stayed at, I gotta think. I think it's 4 Points Hotel, close enough to Hell's Kitchen, Clinton. They call it Clinton now, I believe. But of course,
people who live there don't call it Clinton.
Exactly. I was going to say, the comic book fans in Hell's Kitchen, fuck you. We don't care. But also, I don't know if you've ever, as you walk to the Javits Center, I stumbled on the brownstone that apparently was the inspiration for Rex Stout's Nero Wolfe detective books. And I don't know if you know Nero Wolfe. Do you know Nero Wolfe?
Nero Wolfe. Yeah.
Okay, good deal, man. Well, I don't. Hey, man, God, that's great. But anybody
the other
under 40,
Archie Goodwin.
Yes, very good, Eric. That's excellent. I'm a massive Nero Wolfe fan. And yeah, there's a plaque on this brownstone, and it's like this was the inspiration of Rex Stout's place for Nero Wolfe's brownstone and everything. God, even Timothy Hutton played Archie Goodwin in some A&E movies, and the wonderful Canadian actor Maury Chaykin played Wolfe, and they were fun. They were really great. And again, love the radio show. Sidney Greenstreet, speaking of Maltese Falcon, did a couple seasons as Nero Wolfe. They're not as good. I mean, you got to love hearing that voice. They're okay, but there are a few other better radio versions. But I love that neighborhood. That neighborhood really, unfortunately, having the name Hell's Kitchen as it did, the gentrification, I think, has made that a fun neighborhood and everything.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. That's I go for the neighborhood, and then there just happens to be a comic book convention down the street, right? So
I haven't been to New York, the New York show in a while. Are they? It sounds like they're finally building up things closer to the convention center, as opposed to like the half mile you normally have to walk to get to some decent restaurants and bars and stuff.
Yeah, it's slowly getting built up. They've finished the renovations. I don't know when the last time you were there, but there was a big chunk of the convention center that was closed.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's reopened. It's really nice. There's really nice meeting rooms which have the panels, which house the panels now. Artist Alley is still downstairs, and there are some nice restaurants. There's I can't remember it. There's like a little market. They call it a market, but it's really just several restaurants in one building. That's just 2 or 3 blocks north of the convention center, which is, it's got something for everybody. Or if you just want to go and grab a beer, it's a good spot to retreat to, whether you're in the middle of the convention or after hours.
No, that's great. I love those kind of markets that have a bunch of restaurants right there. We have one of those here in Chicago, and I know Boston and Pittsburgh really have great ones like that as well that are much more famous. Actually, even Philadelphia does too. So that's cool, man. Well, that sounds great. So all that's like early part of, late spring, early summer and everything. And of course, New York, obviously in the fall. So it sounds like you got a nice little full slate. So we're expecting, again, the announcement soon for volume 2 for Blacksmith.
Yes.
Very cool.
And I was really hoping I could come on the show and tell you more about it, but I reached out to Tom Pyre, and he said, you're allowed to say that it comes out in June. That's what I'm allowed to tell you. And the cover price will be $3.99. So Ahoy books are of value. They're $3.99. You get 20 pages of comics, plus you get all the back matter. If you don't think my story is funny enough, they're usually really good about loading up those back pages with some funny material. One of the funniest things I've ever read was the trade paperback for the first volume. John Layman wrote it. Another reason to check it out, kids. The John Layman Introduction to Blacksmith, which is quite a coup considering that he and Tom Pyre have a famous Twitter feud that seems to be ongoing forever.
That's funny. Layman's coming back on Word Balloon this month, and he and I had a nice off-the-air conversation either last week or 2 weeks ago. No, Johnny's one of my favorite people, and that's again, isn't this great? I mean, you know better than I do the comics community. I mean, you've rattled off some of your good friends and everything, and that's why I love going to out-of-town conventions or even the in-town ones. I right now San Diego's a bit of a challenge financially for me, but I used to call it really expensive summer camp because it was
exactly right.
Our out of town friends, we're all together. This is great, man. We're all having fun this week, and dropping a lot of money. But then what are you gonna do?
Yeah, but it's well, you can't take it with you.
Attaboy.
Yeah, it's summer camp is exactly how I think of it, right? And it's getting to see those people, and the people that are sort of that I kind of came up with, or that like David Pepos and Rich Duick and Rosenberg, and some of these people have become genuine friends of mine, and I do look forward to seeing them at these shows. So I'm looking forward to the start of convention season, which seems to just go longer and longer every year.
Well, as you know, there are already conventions that happened late January, and then certainly in February. C2E2 is competing with MegaCon that same weekend, I believe. You're right. I think pretty much just for the holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas, that's the only time now that's kind of downtime as far as conventions go. Eric, that's great, man. And seriously, congratulations. I love Blacksmith. I'm looking forward to getting the hard date from Ahoy of when Volume 2 comes out. And yeah, man, we got just a few days left for the Orphans campaign. As Eric said, there's only about 30 hardcovers left, but also the digital product is available, and both really, really great stories. So congratulations, and it's nice to meet you. Please come back when you have new things to discuss, and we'll get further into it, man. But it's really nice to meet you.
Yeah, likewise. This is kind of much the same way that Don Cardenas mentioned the other week when he was on promoting the Evie and the Helsings. I just want to say that, like, this is a bucket list
Oh man,
podcast for me. Like, I'm a big fan of yours and all that you do in promoting, the creators and the comics, and you those long drives that I have to the day job. You've kept me sane, so I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you, John.
well, that really means a lot, Eric. Seriously, thank you, and happy to do it, and more to come. But again, really good to get to know you, and I appreciate the patronage that you provide me and stuff. And then thank you. So everybody, thanks a lot for watching tonight. Let's see, I gotta go through the list. We're off tomorrow. I believe we're off on Wednesday. Thursday, Dan Jurgens is going to be on. And that's going to be a lot of fun. And then another Ahoy person is going to be on Friday, plus a guy that's done a lot for DC and Marvel, Mark Russell, coming back.
Oh, yeah.
So that's how we're going to close out the week. But yeah, man, February starting off really good with yourself and Brad Meltzer and Tom last week and everything. So I hope everybody's enjoying it, and more to come for the month of February. Everybody, thank you very much. Until next time, stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy.